It's a lot. It's 52. I think I counted 52, and 52 different kinds of evidence. We usually just say we have numerous kinds of evidence, and some of them anybody can, I think, understand, and others are more complicated and are maybe more indirect. But putting them all together, they amount to I think, a conclusive body of proof that this is happening. We often refer to the phone calls where we would have people speaking excellent Mandarin or Chinese, and they would call hospitals across the country and tell them they were trying to get a Falun Gong organ for transplant, and they'd ask for a doctor, and quite often in the early days they could get doctors who'd tell them in 2006, and the doctor would say, yes, we have things like we have Falun Gong practitioners available through the courts or through the police, and we then I'm trying to find the map here. We then make a note of where it was, and we hired independent translators to make sure it was an accurate transcript, and we have it in the book and in the report and on tape. We've kept these tapes too, and there we are. That's the if you can see the dots there. Wherever there's a dot is where we found a hospital or a detention center where we could get someone saying on tape that they had Falun Gong practitioners available for organ pillaging. Now, if you can imagine, because it's so stupid, one of the things they did to rebut this is they got one of the doctors we spoke to, and I think he's in here, and they got him to say on a tape made by Phoenix Television that, yes, I got a call on that day from somebody calling about this, and yes, I spoke to them, but I didn't say anything about this. I said this, this, and this, denying it, in other words. In other words, now they were doing this in Mandarin, but we had his voice. Did they think we spliced his voice in saying something completely different? But I guess they assume everybody's stupid, that we would we doctored the conversation. So I mean, that's the level of their rebuttal, and it's just so mindless, and it's so stupid that we don't think any reasonable person would have any doubts about the overall effect of the evidence. Of course, you don't see this on television anywhere because these murders are taking place in operating rooms, and nobody's going to get There have been a few photographs that have been taken out, as you know, but it's hard to get it out unless people see it on television. A lot of people don't believe it can happen, and they say, we want to see it on television. Well, we can't show it on television because the surgeons aren't going to take films of it, and the so-called victims the victims are dead. So that's probably the difference. I wish dearly that we could get somebody to film one of these operations, but thus far we haven't been able to get that. We've had some very interesting things happen. I was hearing earlier today, and apparently it's available on Epoch Times, about somebody sent a taped conversation of when Bo Xilai was in the Kempinski Hotel was it in Berlin? And somebody taped the conversation where somebody called from the Chinese embassy and said, it's all there. Which room are you, Mr. Bo? And then the question was, well, who authorized you to commit this pillaging of Falun Gong? We've got apparently Bo's voice saying it was President Jiang Zemin. And apparently there's more too that was said, but that's pretty good evidence, because everybody knows it was Jiang Zemin that started the persecution, and now we've got Bo Xilai, who was, as you know, probably the lead persecutor of Falun Gong in his region, his state, admitting it, and this fellow Yang Lijung, the police chief who went into the American consulate. We've had some rather extraordinary statements. Remember, he got an award for doing. I think the figure is thousands of operations on people taking their organs out, and he's making a speech saying what is it? He said it moves the soul to do something like this. Can you imagine? this is not a human being who's saying this, but he does. So if people are open-minded and they're prepared to look at the evidence, I don't think anybody will have any doubt that this has happened, and it's still happening, and it's got to stop. And as I said earlier, we're going to keep going until it is stopped.